Welcome to Copilots, the podcast where we watch not just the first episode of a show,
but also the second. Some shows don't have the best pilot episode, and giving it that second chance might just change your mind.
Here, we take that chance for you and let you know our opinion on if a show deserves more than one shot.
I'm Justice. Alongside me is my co-pilot Josh. Now, let's get ready for takeoff. Your in-flight entertainment this time will be Over the Garden Wall.
So to be upfront with all of our passengers, Justice has seen Over the Garden Wall before.
Which, if you've listened to us talk about things before, I've probably mentioned.
I have never seen Over the Garden Wall, though, and Justice, along with friend of the show, Chris, have consistently made sure I know that I haven't seen it.
I watch it like every year around fall.
I have never seen you watch the series.
Yeah, I normally watch it on like my father's son shit because it was like easy enough to find.
Fair enough. So this year, we watched the first two episodes because it is the 10-year anniversary of Over the Garden Wall, and 10 years after it came out, I am finally going to watch it.
Well, almost 10 years. This episode will be up a day before it's 10 years.
A day is a strong terminology. Hours
It'll be
before.
up a calendar day before.
So that brings us to the title, which is The Old Grist Mill,
Yes.
which is the first chapter of Over the Garden Wall.
Yes.
So the series starts...
With a frog playing piano.
Yes, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Was that like, so, spoilers, I guess.
Yeah.
Was that in-universe, like, actually a thing? Or is that just the opening, like, animation? Because the second episode didn't have that.
It's just like the opening animation.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we start with a frog playing a piano, there's some music, and then we cut to two boys wandering through the forest.
I mean, we have a narration.
Yeah, it's not that much of a narration.
Yeah, it's just about how the unknown can be weird. And sometimes you find it in the woods. And then we got to two boys walking.
But in our defense, we already knew that the unknown could be weird. We just spent a month in the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Sometimes it hides behind mirrors and pops up out at people.
And sometimes they take the shape of letters, and then you have to use them to decode puzzles and Pokemon games.
Yeah. Unknown is really weird and unexpected whenever it shows up, man.
But yeah, we follow two boys who have found themselves lost in the woods.
Yes. And as they're walking, one of them is just saying a bunch of fucking words.
Words.
Some of them sound like names. Some of them just sound like words he just know exist but has no idea what they mean.
Words and names, yes, just rattling through them. And eventually we find out it's because he's trying to name his frog. Because he's been carrying a frog around this entire time.
But as he's put it when he talks to the other boy, none of the words he listed are even possible names. Those are all the worst names he could think of for the frog.
Now the boy carrying the frog, for some reason, has an inverted teapot on his head.
Yes.
And the other boy is wearing a dunce cap and a cloak.
Yeah, like fashion icons, really.
The animation is kind of exactly what you'd expect from a Cartoon Network show, honestly.
Especially from like 10 years ago.
But I will say, like, when it cuts away from the kids and just, like, does stills of the forest.
The, like, pastoral painting style of it's very nice.
Very nice.
It's as they're walking that the older of the two realizes that they are lost.
Yeah, he asks his brother. His name is Wirt and his younger brother is Greg. And he's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And Wirt goes, he asks, where are we? And Wirt goes, we're in the woods.
Yeah.
And he tries to clarify, but Wirt is useless. Which seems to be an ongoing trait for this character the further we go in these two episodes.
I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you. That's just factual.
I said Wirt is useless. I meant Greg. Greg is useless.
Yeah, I know which one you meant.
Wirt is almost useless.
Yeah, Wirt's also not much better. But at least he's trying to be useful.
It's like Dumb and Dumber, except useless and more useless.
I mean, if you're going to say it's like Dumb and Dumber, you have to say it's like useless and uselesser.
Uselesser is not a word, though.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Realizing that they're lost, Wirt begins to worry and wonder aloud. Yeah. But then they start hearing the sound of an axe chopping wood.
Yes. Well, Wirt starts to get weirdly poetic about being lost. Then they hear an axe chopping, so they go to investigate it.
Yes. And they find a woodsman chopping sticks up. Not trees, just sticks.
Yeah, and the tree next to him is like, it has a spooky face on it. There's black sap all over it. And he himself doesn't look very friendly either. He's decked out in an all black, like, leatherish outfit. He's got a tall, kind of like...
It's like a pilgrim style hat almost.
Yeah.
It's like somewhere between a pilgrim hat and a stovetop. But where it's like, do you think he's an axe murderer? Do you think he's going to kill us?
Yeah.
And Greg goes, we should ask him for help.
Or it's like, yeah, we should. Wait, no, we shouldn't. And then a voice pipes up from behind them as Wirt is staring at the woodsman trying to figure out what they should do. And it's a bluebird, seeing that she might be able to help them.
Which Wirt is immediately like,
And that's not right.
Birds' brains aren't large enough to have functional speech or cognizance.
And Greg's just like, oh, cool, yeah, maybe you're a bird. And Wirt's just like, that's Greg, that's not how this works. Greg, that bird can't talk. Greg, what are you doing? And the bird's just like, yo,
Greg, stop talking to it.
Yeah, and the bird's just like, it? Wow, bro. Really? I'm right here.
But this exchange draws the attention of the woodsman, who frightens and yells at the two kids.
Yes, and the bird's just like, oh, I'm out. Nope.
And he's like, why are you kids in the woods? You can't be out here. There's a beast.
Yeah, like, we don't know anything about a beast, man. We are lost. That is why we're in the woods.
And then the man kind of laughs. He goes, you've stumbled into the unknown. You're more lost than you know.
Yeah.
It almost feels like he should be like ha 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 ha, and then like have like a tooth missing and then like dance off screen.
Are you making a Gravity Falls reference right now?
Am I making a Gravity Falls reference right now?
I mean, it sounds like you're talking about Old Man McGucket.
He feels very Old Man McGucket.
I mean... Sure, if you're talking about the few times that Old Man McGucket is like the harbinger in a horror movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that is the woodsman's role here. He is the harbinger. He's like, hey, I come across as creepy and scary, but things are much creepier and scarier than you realize. I'm trying to warn you, but you're going to misinterpret it because you think I'm creepy and scary.
Yeah.
So he leads them back to a mill where he's like, hey, stay here. I've lit this fire for you in the fireplace. I'm going to go take these sticks and turn them into oil because I need that.
Yeah, he turns edelwood trees into oil because he needs it to light his lamp, because every man has to have a purpose, and his purpose is to keep this lamp lit.
To keep the beast back.
I don't know if he actually says anything about keeping the beast back with the lamp, but it does make sense. I'm assuming you're using foreknowledge.
I don't know.
Justice used foresight.
I mean, if I did, it was accidental. I could have sworn he said something about that here, but...
Justice used metronome?
Look.
Metronome used foresight?
Sure, bud. You make your Pokemon references. Pokemons are fun.
I don't know why you're making fun of Pokemon.
I'm not really. I'm more just talking like I am an out-of-touch adult/old man because I have not kept up with Pokemon. So I am speaking as if I'm making fun of Pokemon, but it's more in an effort to emulate an older generation that doesn't understand the appeal of games like Pokemon, but is still somewhat trying to like appease your like of it. Basically, I'm trying to embody the, are you winning, son?
Okay, but anyways, while the woodsman is lighting the fire and explaining this stuff, Wirt kind of like whispers over to Greg and he's like, we need to escape. We need to run away. Wait, we can't just run away. He knows the woods better than us. We should knock him out first. But wait, actually, he's not that bad of a guy. He did build a fire for us. Maybe we can stay here.
But then the woodsman's like, what are you kids talking about over there?
And Greg, if we recall, his key trait is being useless, immediately goes, oh, we were talking about running away.
Yeah. And then the woodsman's like, you're free to leave whenever you would like. I'm going to go do some work in the mill if you're here when you get back.
Oh, he's like, you can leave whenever you like, but the beast is out there.
Yes. Anytime he gets a chance to reference the beast and the beast is dangerous and you should be scared of the beast, assume he has shoehorned it into his speech. So then he walks into the mill area to do mill work.
By mill work, he means crush sticks into sap.
Yes. And
oil?
I don't know. Technically, it should be sap. It's a tree, but he appears to be making some form of burnable lamp oil, but some saps can burn, I think, so.
It's some more of this mysterious black oil.
Yes. And then Wirt lays down on a daybed or chaise lounge, if you will.
Yep, chaise lounge.
And it's just like, man, do you ever just feel like sometimes you're just like a boat, unmoored, floating across? And he's just getting philosophical and like wondering about the situation. And the entire time in the background, Greg's just like, yep. But he's also just walking around picking up random objects and giving them a good swing.
And then just leaving them laying around.
Yeah, like judging them and just being like, no. Obviously, as we all know, he is testing to see what is the best object to knock out this old man with, right? Like, you picked up on that.
Yeah, I did.
And honestly, I'm upset that he puts down the best pick, in my opinion, at a point. He picks up an old-style bed warmer swings it. It swings so well. And he just puts it back down. You know, the old on the end of a stick, metal pan.
Well, he's also got like a
underneath the
bat
mattress.
at one point, which is like
Yeah.
quintessential. This is the perfect thing to hit somebody in the back of the head with.
Yeah, he has two very good choices at a point and just puts them both down.
And that's not even talking about the fire pokers that are literally right next to the fireplace. There's like two different fire pokers. But then, while he's doing this...
So he's waxing more poetic about this as Greg's doing that. And he posits a question at... Wart posits a question at Greg.
Yeah, it's, have you ever felt like being a boat unmoored on the ocean with no sense of purpose or direction?
And Greg just goes, did you know if you put a raisin in grape juice, it turns back into a grape? And Wart's just like, Greg, go play with your frog.
No, you don't get to cut out the best part of Greg here. He goes, after he goes... Do you know if you take a grape and put it in, if you take a raisin and put it in grape juice, it turns back into a grape? That's a rock fact. Then pulls out a rock with a smiley face on it.
Yeah, and then Wart tells him to go play with his frog.
And Greg goes, wait, where is my frog?
Where is that frog named Kitty?
Yeah, that frog named Kitty.
Because he has named the frog Kitty. Because it's a bad name for a frog.
So Greg then leaves the safety of the mill to go look for his frog.
After throwing a handful of candy, because we haven't mentioned that earlier.
Oh, yeah.
When they were lost, Greg mentioned he should have made a trail. And now he started to make a trail with candy.
Wart mentioned they should have left a trail. Yeah. And Greg goes, I could leave a trail with candy.
So he's started making one with candy.
And Wart goes, it's too late for that.
Yeah, that hasn't stopped Greg, though. So he's made a trail all the way to here. And it even leads into the building and it's in this room. But as he leaves, he just throws a handful of candy out and then walks out.
So he's just outside the mill next to the river, and he's looking around and hears a noise from the forest, and he heads that way. And then he hears what sounds like a frog croaking next to the mill. It's the actual mill itself. So he heads over there.
Because this frog's giving him the runaround.
And he can't find the frog, so he climbs up on a
barrel.
A barrel, yes. I'm sure I remember the exact type of barrel they're called, but like there's a specific name for barrels that have the iron rings on them.
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the name. I mean, it's a type of cask, but...
So he climbs up on top of that barrel, and it doesn't have like a cover, so he's just standing on the edge of a barrel. Yeah. And it's now got his eye level with a window into the mill, where he sees the old man juicing sticks, and he's like, ooh, gross, because it's black viscous liquid, because it's an oil. It's more of that mysterious black oil. And then he hears a noise from the forest again.
So he turns around, and he's like, oh, is that? And just takes a step forward, completely forgetting he is standing on the edges of his feet, on the edge of this barrel, and now he falls into it.
And lands on top of Kitty, which is the frog.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, Kitty, there you are.
And then a giant bestial wolf sticks its face in the barrel, and he's like, oh, no!
Oh, you have pretty eyes.
Oh, yeah, he does say, oh, you have pretty eyes before he screams.
And then we cut back to inside the mill, where Wart is playing with a kendama.
It's a cup and ball. He's going, boop, boop.
I mean,
boop.
Was it a cup? I thought it looked like it had a spike on the top instead of a cup. I mean, it may be a ball and cup, but I just could have sworn it looked more like a kendama than a ball and cup.
I mean...
They're basically the same thing, they're just a bit culturally different. It's fine.
It's the lamest toy ever designed, regardless of how you put it.
Yeah. Not a fan. But he's playing with that when all of a sudden he hears a sound, and then Greg comes inside, comes running inside, and he is...
Greg's not inside yet, because before Greg comes in, there's a crashing noise outside.
Yeah.
Where it's...
The woodsman comes in before Greg comes in.
Yeah. The woodsman comes in, he's like, where's your brother?
And then just like outside.
He's like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, Shrugs, I don't know.
And then Greg comes crashing through the door with parts of the barrel like around him still, like wood and rings. And then he slams the door shut.
Yep. And then the beast, the creature, the dog, immediately slams the door open and sends Greg tumbling.
He doesn't just slam the door open, it blasts through the door. There is no more door.
So Greg goes tumbling across the room and works me like, the beast! And the woodsman's like, stay back, boys. I've got this.
And Greg was thrown to the top of the stairs. And while he's up there, he has a board from the barrel. So while the woodsman is attempting to fight this giant wolf with an axe, Greg takes the board and smacks him in the back of the head.
Well, Greg takes a swing at him, but Greg, being a small, uncoordinated child, misses. Knocks the hat off the woodsman. The woodsman turns into like, what? And then stumbles, steps on like a little decorative piece that Greg was swinging around earlier and dropped to the floor when he realized it wasn't good enough to beat a man to death with. The woodsman then falls backwards and slams it into a log Greg was testing to see if he could knock him out with earlier.
And in fact, it does work to knock out the woodsman.
Yeah.
And so now the giant wolf is stalking towards Wirt, and as it is, Greg picks up the axe.
No, not initially. Greg is smacking it on the butt with the plank.
With the axe. It's the axe handle. He's holding the axe upside down.
Oh, yeah.
Smacking it with the handle of the axe. Because again, Greg is useless.
Yeah.
And while he's doing this, Wirt is shielding himself with the fireplace screen.
Yeah.
So
Wart gets over to Greg after Greg distracts the wolf thing and grabs the axe and was like, I'm going to take this. You're too young for it.
He doesn't grab the axe yet, Joseph. That's not until after
That's
the
after.
mill.
So he goes to drag them into the mill, and Greg just grabs more candy from his pockets and yells, "Candy camouflage!" And then they run.
And yeah, he grabs two giant handfuls of candy, throws them in the air, and goes, "Candy camouflage!"
Yeah, and then they're dragged into the mill, where the beast thing then chases them.
Yeah.
Destroys a bunch of the mill.
During this, Wart takes a bag of potatoes and just is chucking potatoes at the beast. At the giant wolf, and Greg is throwing candy at it.
Well, Greg goes, am I supposed to throw something too? Throws candy at it, and then the creature starts eating the candy.
Yeah, and at this point, Wart and Greg realize, well, Wart realizes and then explains to Greg that it's been eating the candy, and that's followed the candy trail all the way here, that Greg led the beast to them.
Yep.
And this is where Wilt grabs the axe from Greg and is like, "You're too young for this anyways."
Yeah. So they're being chased by it. It's actively destroying, absolutely fucking wrecking this mill.
Yeah, they climb a ladder and get out on the roof through a hatch.
And they're like, cool, we could be safe. And then just burst through the fucking ceiling at a different portion of it.
Yeah. Wart's like, "Greg, it wants your candy. Give it the rest of your candy."
Greg has no more candy.
But he does see a piece of candy sticking to Wart, pulls that, throws it off the roof, and the monster leaps to chase it. And when he does, it gets stuck between a rock and the actual windmill mill part itself. And the windmill begins to squish the wolf viscerally.
The water will.
The water will, yeah, sorry. Begins to squish the wolf viscerally in such a manner that I was like, is it gonna, like, literally squeeze this wolf's guts out? Like, is that what this animated show is?
Yeah. It's like rolling up a tube of toothpaste.
Yeah.
But you are viscerally aware that the thing that is being squeezed has organs inside.
It just makes the monster cough up a bunch of Edelwood oil and a black turtle.
Yes. A turtle that you may have seen earlier this episode.
I did notice that.
There was a turtle earlier while they were talking about what they were going to do that Greg just slapped a piece of candy on.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, he put a piece of candy on the back of it.
I didn't.
And that's why there was a piece of candy on it when it comes out.
I didn't make the connection between the candy and the wolf and the
this
turtle.
is totally Greg's fault. The dog definitely ate that turtle because it had candy on its back, and then it turned it into this wild monster.
This water wheel does break, though, and the entire windmill, like...
Oh, yeah.
the entire mill is just like...
Yeah, it shoots out parts of its support for the griststone and everything. Like, it is wrecked.
And then the woodman, when the dog spits out the oil and the turtle, he turns back into just a dog. It's like a good old dog. And then the woodsman comes back out of the mill and he's lamenting about the actual mill structure itself being destroyed. And how the oil he collected is all spilt.
It's all gone, and things are bad, and people may be doomed or whatever. He's doomsaying a bunch.
And then Wart's like, yeah, but we solved the beast problem.
He's like, that dog's not the beast.
The beast isn't some farmer's pet.
That can be made docile. It's unknowable. It's terrifying. It's tenuous. He's just saying negative words about how bad the beast is.
And while he's doing this, Wirt is scolding Greg. He's like, yeah, look what you did.
And then the huntsman's like, the woodsman is like, no, boy, it's not his fault. It's yours. You're the older sibling. You should be watching out for him, making sure he's doing things correctly.
And then he's like, you boys need to go. Go that way and just follow the path.
Yeah, go north to a town.
And you'll find a town. And then you, young boy, give that frog a good name.
Yeah, so they walk off.
Yep, and the episode ends with Greg being like, I think I'm going to name the frog Wirt. And Wirt's like, that's going to be confusing. And Greg
no, it's
goes,
not.
I'm going to call you Kitty from now on.
Yeah.
And then Wirt's like, fine, I will call you Candy Pants.
And the Greg's just like, yeah!
And that's the end of the episode.
So, after episode 1 of Over the Garden Wall, would you watch more?
This is one of those issues where, like, people hype something up to you.
Yeah.
And, like, it just doesn't hit that bar. So, like, I think I would. I think I would watch more. But, like, it's fine. It's okay. It's got some funny moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny moments and I like the aesthetic. That's what I've basically always said about it.
The 11 minutes didn't cost me that much of my life.
Nah.
So, yeah, I'd probably watch more.
I have watched more, and I would watch more again.
Like I said, the animation itself is nothing impressive. I do like the, like, still shots, like when they cut to just the woods. It looks very nice.
The music, I think, is well done tonally for what they're going for. Like, just throughout the back of it. I don't know. I just like the vibe of the entire show.
Okay, that will take us to episode 2. Hard Times at the Huskin Bee.
Yeah.
So, this episode starts with a scene of animals in the woods.
Yep.
And then we see Wirt and Greg walking along, with Greg continually blowing raspberries and just making weird noises.
Yeah.
And he's like, have you even been listening to anything I said, Wirt?
Well, no. Wart asks Greg first about if he thinks they're getting near town or anything, or if the old man was just like,
oh yeah, because it's like
direction.
The entire next day. Like, it's the afternoon of the next day.
Yeah. He's like, you think we would have come across the town by now? Do you think the old man just, like, is bad at directions or something? And then Greg's like, it's like you haven't been listening to a single word I've said at all, Wart. And Wart's just like, okay.
What have you been saying?
Yeah.
And then Greg continues to make raspberries and noises. And Wirt goes, yes, that's it. I'm walking 10 feet in front of you from now on.
Yeah. So Wirt speeds up to separate them. And then almost immediately afterwards, Greg hears a voice. And it's like, Wirt, did you hear that? And Wirt's like, no. But here's a sign for Pottsfield.
1 mile ahead?
Yeah.
So I think we should go this way.
And Greg's like, nope, this bush is talking to me. I'm going to go see what this bush is doing.
And Greg goes, okay, this way.
Yeah.
And walks off in a different direction. Wirt turns around and catches up with his brother. But before that, Greg finds Beatrice, the blue bird from the last episode.
Yes, we get her name here very quickly.
She's tangled in thorns.
In a bush.
And she's like, hey, if you help me out of here, I'll do you a favor.
I'll do you a favor in return. And Greg's like, a wish?
She's like, no, I'm not magic. She's like,
I'm just going to do you
a turn.
A good turn.
And he's like, you could turn me into a tiger? And she's like, I'm not magical. And he's like, it doesn't have to be a magical tiger.
Yeah. And she's like, At this point, Wirt catches up to him and he's like, Greg, stop talking to the bush. Let's go. And Greg's like, okay. And then immediately frees Beatrice, who flies up. And Wirt's just like, wait, what, the bird? And Beatrice then is like, hey, you two are 2 kids lost with no purpose, right?
And Greg's like, yep.
Wirt is obviously skeptical of this weird bird who is now giving like introductory cult questions.
And so after Greg agrees that he is a young boy with no purpose, she's like, oh, I could take you to see Adelaide of the pasture. She's the good woman of the woods.
Yeah.
She can grant actual wishes. And Wirt's like, but Pottsfield's right there. Like, we could, it's just civilization's right there. And Greg goes, no, I don't want to go to the woods I don't want to go see Adelaide right now.
Yeah.
And then they're walking and Beatrice is like, we could just leave your brother. Like, we could just leave him. And Greg goes, maybe later.
Yeah.
And then they get to Pottsfield.
Yes. They crest a hill, and it's just pumpkin fields and a nice little pastoral town.
And as they're walking into town, Greg steps in a pumpkin.
Yep. And as he's distractedly mentioning that he stepped in a pumpkin, he distracts Wirt, who then immediately steps in a pumpkin as well.
When they get into the actual town proper, it seems to be abandoned. But then they hear music nearby.
Well, they're searching through houses real quick. And they open it, and there's just this faux moment where there's just a turkey sitting at a table. And Wirt starts to back out, and she's like, I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just looking for a phone. And then closes it. I think that's important, because up until this point, everything has felt very more fantastical, but also like we had no good time period. Well, now we know at least phones exist.
Well, we also know cars exist, because he mentions when they're heading to Pottsfield, he's like, we can find somebody to give us a ride back home.
Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a car.
That's fair.
But now we know phones exist, so cars also probably exist.
Yeah, so then they hear music, and they follow the music to a barn, and inside there's a bunch of living pumpkin people, all like
dancing around a giant pumpkin, like as a maypole, basically.
Yeah, and they're like some of them are like running in circles around it, stringing it up like a maypole. Yeah, I know. I was just like giving more description.
Do people not know what a maypole is?
I'm assuming a good portion of people don't know what maypoles are.
Weird. Why do I know what a maypole is? When have I ever learned about maypoles and why? Questions to ask myself later.
I assume it's because we're from a very Germanic part of the United States. And
are maples naturally Germanic? I don't know anything about maples, really.
Yeah, maples are like super ingrained in German culture.
Oh, okay,
like,
cool.
For like most town celebrations or festivals, including stuff like Oktoberfests, they have maples.
Which would explain why pumpkin people are dancing around the equivalent of a maple.
Yes. Anyways, the 3 of them kind of debate about what they should do.
Yeah.
And Wirt's like, I'm just going to go in and see if I can get directions from somebody or get help from somebody so we can get home.
Yeah.
And like,
Beatrice is like, I don't know, seems kind of creepy. I think we should just go. But Wirt walks off anyways, and Beatrice lands on Greg's teapot. And Greg's like, Beatrice, how would you feel about this dance? She's like, no, I don't want to. And Greg just walks off with the dance, and she's like, no, I didn't agree to this, no.
Wirt then is accosted by one of the pumpkin people.
She's like, oh, you haven't put on your vegetables yet, or something like those lines.
And Wirt's like, oh yeah, it's just a costume, obviously.
You're just people in costumes, of course.
Of course, that makes a lot more sense. And they're like, yeah. And he's like, so what are you doing in Pottsfield? And he's like, oh, we're just passing through.
Yeah.
And somebody goes, and they get this. The same person's like, people don't pass through Pottsfield.
Yeah, people don't normally just pass through Pottsfield. You're here a little early, aren't you?
Well, the early person is later.
I mean, the passing through comment comes from the same person.
Okay.
The one who mentions the costume is just a person randomly passing, and then he walks up to a girl pumpkin or girl presenting pumpkin person, and she's like, aren't you here a bit early? And then he mentions trying to get home, that he's passing through Pottsfield.
And he's like, I just want to leave. That's all. I want to leave. I want to go home. And then an older pumpkin
is like, what? And holds up a hearing horn to the side of his.
You want to leave Pottsfield?
And the old man, being an old man, yells it because he can't hear himself, and music stops. Dancing stops. Everything stops.
Somebody like backs up against the barn doors to close them to prevent people from leaving. leaving.
And the moment that happens, we cut to Beatrice and Greg, and Beatrice is immediately like, well, I'm out of here. So much for, as she called it, her honor duty thing as a bluebird.
Honor-bound life debt.
Yeah. Life debts go out the door when creepy cults happen, apparently.
She's a Wookiee.
Yes.
So the partygoers all begin to menace towards Wirt and Greg.
Mm-hmm. And they're just like, well, why are you here? What are you doing? And Wirt's just trying to explain it all again. And he starts from the beginning. He's like, well, we were walking through the woods. A guy put us in this direction after we were chased. We got lost. We found this bird. We were walking. We got here. We both stepped on pumpkins. Then we were here. And we'd just like to go.
And then the maple itself starts to move and come alive.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, it's actually called upon by one of the people. Its name is Enoch.
Yeah. The old man asks Enoch what they should do with these people. To which Enoch is just like, well, let me get this right. Since you've come here, you've trespassed. You've interrupted our celebration. You've destroyed our property and murder. And we're just like, what murder? And he's like, no. I was joking. But for the other actual crimes you did commit, I guess we're going to have to sentence you to...
Well, he's like, and by the investiture of the town of Pottsville as a member of the Chamber of Commerce,
yeah.
I find you guilty.
Yeah, of trespass, destruction of property, murder.
Yeah, and then he's like, I sentence you to several hours hard labor.
Yeah, and we're just like, wait, hard labor? Okay, cool.
Sorry, several hours of manual labor.
Yeah. And we're just like, oh, okay, that's not bad. So then we get a little montage of them doing stuff. They're raking hay.
Harvesting corn, shucking corn.
Collecting pumpkins.
And their last task is to dig holes in a field.
Yep.
And then Wirt's like, why do you think they're having us dig these holes? And Beatrice goes, well, you're probably digging your own graves.
And Wirt's like, I don't know, maybe seeds or something? And Beatrice's like, no.
And then Greg goes, I found treasure. And Wirt goes, see, that makes way more sense.
Yeah. What'd you find? And Greg pops up out of his hole and is like, bones! It's
a skeleton!
Yeah, it's a full human skeleton. And Wirt's me like, we gotta go. Use your tiny little bird feet to get us out. Beatrice's like, oh, so now you want my help.
He's like, no, not really, but like... And then Enoch and the rest of the people show up, and Greg goes, okay, I want your help. Please help.
Wirt goes, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Wirt goes.
Greg doesn't want anything. Greg's just happy to find bones.
Greg doesn't want for anything. He's a simpleton and an idiot.
Rude, but okay.
Is it wrong, though?
Rude?
So Enoch comes over, he's like, have you dug your holes? And again, not Greg. Greg doesn't do anything. He's useless. Wirt goes, yeah, but like, rocks.
And they're like, rocks? Because he's trying to stall for time.
And Beatrice goes, stall more. Buy more time.
So we were digging, and, there were a lot of rocks.
And you don't like rocks, right? Nobody likes rocks.
And the crowd all remembers like, I mean, he's right. I'm not a huge fan of rocks. I don't really like rocks. They're like, yeah, so the rocks, and then we did and
then he notices that Beatrice, like, while he's doing this rock bit,
mm-hmm.
Beatrice scrambles from his hole across the ground to Greg's hole,
mm-hmm.
because she's got her little ball and chain off, because they all had ball and chains on.
Yeah.
And then, while he's like, well, the rocks. And
so we had to move them and do that. And
then Greg and Beatrice run off without him.
And he notices, he's like, wait, what? And the crowd, he just stops talking. The crowd's like, well, what about the rocks? And he's like,
and
while he's
stumbling over his words, the skeleton from Greg's hole stands up and starts...
Mm-hmm. And the crowd just stops focusing on Wirt and starts focusing on something behind him. And he's like, wait, what? Turns, sees a skeleton, freaks out rightfully. And they're all like, oh, he looks just as good as he was when he was alive. He looks fantastic. And they walk over to him and they put a pumpkin on his head.
And he puts himself into a pumpkin and
puts on corn husk sleeves.
Mm-hmm. And then there's another skeleton and they give it a head as well. And he's like, they're all skeletons. And when he figures that out, he starts blabbering again.
Yeah.
And then he falls down, and his head is right next to Beatrice, and she's like, why are you still here? We need to run.
Yeah.
And he's like, what do you mean? You left me.
Yeah. And then she gestures to the shackle, which has been undone. He just didn't notice. So Beatrice then takes off again, and Wirt stands up, and as he's getting ready to take off, Enoch, the big Chamber of Commerce pumpkin, is just like, so.
When we say big, we mean he's like 4 times taller than every other skeleton pumpkin around.
He's like, so, you're gonna go. Are you sure you don't want to stay here? And Wirt's like, yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm just gonna leave. And Enoch's like, okay.
You'll join us one day.
Yep.
So Beatrice, Greg, and Wirt all regroup, and all of them walk deeper into the woods, the area called the Unknown.
Yep.
So the end scene is a leaf blowing through the wind, and it gets stuck to a fence post, and then we can hear a laughter in the distance, like a deep, dark laugh.
Yeah.
And that's the end of episode 2.
Have your thoughts changed at all, in any form?
It's still only 11 minutes. it still doesn't live up to like how much you and Chris have talked it up throughout life.
I mean, I don't think I've talked it up a lot. I think I've talked about the things that I like about it.
No, so
I've just
Chris,
mentioned that I like it.
So Chris, I'm gonna throw you under the bus here. I know you're gonna listen. You by yourself, whenever you're by yourself, you never talk it up that much. You're just like, oh yeah, it's a good show. Like you should watch it.
Yeah.
But then when you and Chris get to talking about it, you guys both talk about how great it is and how like it's one of the best Halloween shows ever. And how
we talk about how we really enjoy for Halloween. Like there's these really neat things we like.
And how it's a show that you need to rewatch every year because it's that great. And like you guys like talk it up so much together. You guys like feed off each other.
Yeah, because we both enjoy it.
To make it sound like it's a show that's just top tier. It's like when I was in college and my friends Corey and Alex would just talk about Doctor Who. Like Alex was always like, Doctor Who's the best show ever. You have to watch Doctor Who. And like if you were just talking to Corey's like, Doctor Who's really good. You should give it a shot.
Yeah.
The reboot is actually very good. But then they were in the same room talking about Doctor Who. They never talked about like the issues with Doctor Who.
Yeah.
It was always Doctor Who's the best. This episode's the best.
This feels like a you problem. Like you should realize when you take two people who like a thing and they're talking about it, all the positives are inflated and generally the negatives are either underplayed or greatly overinflated as well. You gotta read the tone of their conversation.
I'm just asking people to be honest about the properties they enjoy.
I've been honest with you about it. It's when I'm talking with someone else that I'm not honest. I gotta lie to myself.
That said, I'm probably gonna watch the rest of it. It's another 8 episodes at 11 minutes each. It's an hour and a half. I was looking at watching Gossip Girl. Like I can't talk about the quality of shows.
Yeah, I would say this is better than Gossip Girl. Having watched some Gossip Girl in my life, I would say this is better.
So yeah, I will watch more. I enjoyed it. It's funny. It's got a little charm to it.
I would say this episode also has more witty dialogue in it because the inclusion of Beatrice gives a somewhat of a foil to Wirt because it's hard for him to be witty without coming across as just an asshole when it's to Greg because
Greg is a simpleton and an idiot.
I wasn't going to put it that way. I was going to say Greg, sweet little Greg, has nothing going on in his head.
Also, this episode has more intrigue. Yeah. Like, the first episode, there is nothing like...
No, the first episode is just like, hey, this is a beast, be scared of it.
The only thing, like, the first episode is, like, that is stranger than, like, real life, like, stranger than life is the Edelwood oil and a talking bird.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they get attacked by a dog and a windmill gets destroyed and there's a crazy old man. That's the episode.
Yeah.
This episode has skeletons that wear pumpkins and dance around a giant pumpkin man.
Yeah.
Named Enoch.
Yep.
So, like... Already it's got more going on.
Fair enough, bro. You're not wrong about any of that.
So, yeah, I'll watch more.
Nice. I would as well, just in case anyone was wondering.
You wouldn't?
I would as well.
Okay. Well, I think that's the end of the episode then.
I believe so.
We want to thank you for flying along with us, as always. And if you want to reach out to us and give us your favorite yearly watch-through shows that you have to watch every year because they're that ingrained in you, because they're the best show ever, like Over the Garden Wall, right?
Or because it's a good show, and it doesn't take up a lot of your time, and it's equivalently like watching a Halloween movie, like lengthwise.
It is like 2 hours long if you just watch all 10 episodes.
Yeah, so you're just like, oh, I can just watch this. It's the thing that I do for this time of the year. And like, so it's more of a horror, thriller, suspense, like, idea of a show, right? Mm-hmm. It's like the schema of it, the idea. But honestly, to me, it just vibes as like a fall show, so I'm never like pressed to be like, oh, I need to watch this like for Halloween. It's like, I don't know, it feels like the time of the year. I'm gonna watch it somewhere around in here.
But if you have any recommendations of shows like that, or you just want to talk to us in general, you can reach us in a myriad of ways, including but not limited to our Twitter and Blue Sky, which are both at Copilots Review.
Or you can email us at copilotsreview@gmail.com.
Or you can find links to all 3 of those, as well as our Patreon, our Discord, our Reddit,
We have a Reddit?
We don't have a Reddit.
I mean, why not? Our Reddit, our Tumblr,
our YouTube,
our 4chan board, our 2chan board.
We do have a YouTube. The rest of those things we don't have. You can find all of those at copilotsreview.simplecast.com.
Thanks for flying, and please fly again soon.